Super Rugby Power Rankings for round number 9, folks. Been watching some games while I'm here on holiday. I feel like I've kind of cursed the Rebels because theirs is the only Super Rugby jersey I brought with me, and yet their run since I've been on holiday, it's been pretty bad. But anyway, we're going to rank the 12 teams in Super Rugby for their form, not necessarily just kind of one for one per the table. There's a couple of questions about that last week. It's not just a reflection of the table. We're trying to look at the form, so the recent results, who have they been beating, have they been winning home and away by big or small margins, that kind of thing, to see which teams are in kind of better form than others. It's just kind of my opinion, or at least what I reckon it might go. And yeah, you guys can let us know your thoughts. One team that does match their spot on the table as my power rankings is Moana Pasifika. On the bye, so they didn't get a loss, but yeah, none from 8. So there's nothing much doing with Moana Pasifika at the moment. The Rebels, like I said, I've kind of cursed them. But they played all right, man. They lost to the Crusaders. They were up 24-12 at halftime, but they only scored 3 points in the second half. So they lose at 27-43. Yeah, kind of tough going for the Rebels in the second half. So they are down a spot. It's a home loss, albeit against a pretty good Crusaders side. The Drua, speaking of teams who kind of played one of the top dogs, they went to Hamilton and played the Chiefs. And they lost 50 points to 17. I think was it Drua try that was like one of the tries of the game, like a counter-attacking length of the field job, which was pretty sweet. The commentators kept trying to say like, yeah, let's get game on every time the Drua would get back within like 2 scores, and I was thinking, well, it's not really game on. Like it's less emphatic at the moment, but it ended up being pretty emphatic, 50 points to 17. So yeah, the Drua at home just seemed to be a different beast, but everyone is struggling to play the Chiefs at the moment, so there's no real dramas for them there, but they are still down a spot on the power rankings. Number 9 is the old Waratahs. The Waratahs played the Blues, and they lost 55 points to 12. They scored 3 tries, but they conceded like 7. So yeah, it's another one of those ones where there seems to be a big kind of gap between the teams who've got positive records and the teams who've got negative records, but we'll get to them kind of shortly. Either way, the Waratahs are 2-6 and down a couple of spots on the power rankings. The Force, though, certainly one of the good stories of the week. The Force, who've not been on a great run of their own. The Force managed to get a good win over the Highlanders, 30 points to 17. It was looking a little bit nervy in that second half when the Highlanders were kind of threatening them out of comeback, but a couple of penalties saw the Force kind of able to extend their lead and kind of keep it safe by the end. A lot of cards in that game. I think there were almost as many cards as there were tries. So I think 5 yellow cards all up, and was it like 6 tries? Yeah, pretty crazy game, but certainly a much needed win for the Force. And the team they beat, the Highlanders, so the Force have got up, 3 spots. The Highlanders have gone down 1 with that away loss to the Force. So they've got the same record, 3-5. Both those sides. The Highlanders were having a little bit of a resurgence, but that would have been a game that I think they would have been targeting for a win, but not to be. The Reds, I feel like a little bit high in 6. The calculations spat them out in 6. I'm not sure I agree with that, to be honest. I think the Reds going up 2 spots is because if you're just looking at pure recent form, they've had a bye this week and a win the week before. So their absolute recent record has not defeated in 2 rounds. But yeah, I think the bye has kind of given them a little bit of a false positive. But anyway, there's a bunch of teams on 3-5. The Reds, the Highlanders, and the Force, plus the Drua are all on 3-5. So these are kind of all the negative record teams. So all those teams I've got on the board at the moment don't seem to be your contenders. Your contenders is everyone else. So we're starting with the Hurricanes. Hurricanes are in 5th. Remember, they were also on the bye, so they've gone down a spot. So they've had a loss and a bye. So they haven't had a win for a couple of rounds, which is maybe why they are down a spot. Surrendering a place to my Blues. I do think it's the bye that's kind of, yeah, maybe just having a little bit of a tweak there. Like the Blues are 5-3, whereas the Hurricanes are 6-2. So the Hurricanes do have a better record, but I guess that Blues' most recent win over the Waratahs, for what it's worth, 55-21, just kind of sees them kind of in terms of pure recency bias, putting them up a little bit above the Canes. But yeah, all these teams, apart from the Chiefs, seem to be kind of there or thereabouts as well, because the Chiefs just seem to be on their own. But I mean, man, the Blues scored some pretty nice tries. They even had one denied through Rico. So yeah, they could have put on a bunch more points, to be honest. I mean, Caleb Clark had a bit of a field day. 3rd spot is the Brumbies. No, I have got the Brumbies down a spot. I think that's just because they were on the bye. once again. So they've surrendered a spot to the Crusaders. Crusaders, who had an away win, sees them kind of jump up above the Brumbies, even though the Brumbies have got a better record. The buys will even themselves out through the course of the season, so yeah, I wouldn't take too much into account. But either way, the Brumbies, the Crusaders, these are looking like some of your real players, right? If you put them second, if you put them third, if you put them fourth, doesn't seem to be a heck of a lot. I mean, the Crusaders will put under a bit of pressure. Remember, a lot of these teams are missing some pretty important players as well. But for the Crusaders, 43-27, given a little bit of a scare, but ultimately, man, cream rises to the top, and Crusaders are there. But still, the Chiefs have to be number one, man. They are 8-0, 50 points to 17 winners over the Drua. Ratima, Taukiaho, D-Mac, Stevenson, Nana Satura, like their key guys are just absolutely firing. And the Chiefs are looking like a very, very tough team to beat. So like I mentioned, in terms of the table, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4. You've got 5 teams with quite good positive records, like either 8-0, 6-2, 7-1, like 5-3. Like at least 2 games in the positive. And then the best teams with negative records is 3-5. So there's definitely, I think, between 5th and 6th on like the power rankings, or if you want to look at the actual table, there's just a big gap between the, you can call it like the haves and the have-nots, or the goods and the not-so-goods, whatever you want to call it, the contenders and the kind of also-rans. But yeah, I think with the way Super Rugby is structured, there's going to be some teams qualifying for the playoffs who probably aren't going to cut the mustard. But anyway, we'll see how things go. You never know in sports. Crazy things could happen. Right, you guys let us know your thoughts. I'm going to get back to my holiday, but certainly be good to keep on up with the old Super Rugby. But yeah, you guys take care, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.